I would like to use as a subject for my address this afternoon, keep moving from this mountain. For the moment, I would like to take your minds back many, many centuries to a group of people whose exploits and adventures have long been meaningfully deposited in the hallowed memories of succeeding generations. At a very early age in their history, these people were reduced to physical slavery. They found themselves under the gripping yoke of Egyptian rule. But soon Moses appeared on the scene, and who was destined to lead them out of Egypt, out of slavery, to a bright and glowing promised land. But as soon as they got out of Egypt by crossing the Red Sea, they discovered that before they could get to the promised land, they would have to go through a long and difficult wilderness. And after realizing this, three groups, or rather three attitudes emerged. One group wanted to go back to Egypt. They felt that the flesh pots of Egypt were more to be desired than the ordeals of emancipation. Then you had the second group that abhorred the idea of going back to Egypt and yet could not quite attain the discipline and sacrifice to go on to Canaan. These people chose the line of least resistance. There was a third group, probably the creative minority, which said in substance, we will go on in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the difficulty, in spite of the sacrifices that we will have to make. In every moment and movement toward freedom and fulfillment, we find these three groups. But this evening, I'm concerned mainly with the second group. The individuals who didn't want to go back to Egypt necessarily, and yet didn't want to go on to the promised land. The individuals who chose the least line of resistance. As Moses sought to lead his people on, he discovered that there were those among them who would occasionally become emotionally and sentimentally attached to a particular spot, so that they wanted to stay there and remain stationary at that point. One day, when Moses confronted this problem, he wrote in the book of Deuteronomy, the first chapter and 5th verse, "You have been in this mountain long enough. Turn ye and go on your journey. Move on the mount of the Amorites." This was the message of God through Moses. And whenever God speaks, he says, go forward, saying in substance that you must never become bogged down in the mountains and situations that impede your progress. You must never become complacently adjusted to unobtained goals. You've been in this mountain long enough. Turn ye and take your journey. In a real sense, each of us assembled here today is in a wilderness, moving toward some promised land of freedom and fulfillment. In every age, In every generation, men have envisioned some promised land. Plato envisioned it in his Republic as a time when justice would reign throughout society, and philosophers would become kings, and kings philosophers. Karl Marx envisioned it as a classless society in which the proletariat would finally conquer the reign of the bourgeoisie. Out of that idea came the slogan, "For each according to his ability, to each according to his need." In looking backward, thought of it as a day when the inequalities of monopoly capitalism would pass away. Society would exist on the basis of evenness of economic input. Christianity envisioned it as a kingdom of God, a time when the will of God will reign supreme, and brotherhood, love, and right relationships will be the order of society. In every age, in every generation, men have dreamed of some promised land, fulfillment of freedom. Whether it was the right promised land or not, they dreamt of it. But in moving from some Egypt of slavery, whether in the intellectual, cultural, or moral realm, towards some promised land, there's always the same temptation. Individuals will get bogged down in a particular mountain, in a particular spot, and thereby become the victims of a stagnant complacency. So, this evening, I would like to deal with 3 or 4 symbolic mountains that we have been in long enough. Mountains that we must move out of if we are to go forward in our world and if civilization is to survive.